So this is going to be the cue lines for all of Leonard Vole's lines in backwards witness for the prosecution by Agatha Christie. Camera's awful, but I hope the audio's okay. Let's get right to it. Right. So we enter Mr. Mayhew. Right. Mr. Mayhew. Sit down, Mr. Vole. Would you care for a cup of tea, Mr. Mayhew? I've just made it. No, thank you. Yes, I suppose one might feel like that. Silly, Mr. Vole. Our English judicial system is, in my opinion, the finest in the world. It is the necessary legal term. The important thing was that Beck was set at liberty. Now, Mr. Vole, there was really no need to take a morbid point of view. Well, try and keep calm. Sir Riffle Robarts will be here presently, and I want you to tell your story to him exactly as you told it to me. But in the meantime, we might fill out a bit more of the detail, a background. You are at present, I understand, out of a job? Or am I thinking of legal fees? How long have you been unemployed? What were you doing before that? How long had you worked there? Were you discharged? And before that? Awkward. In what way? Indeed. Wilfred Robarts enters the scene. Carter told you I was in court. Banter really surpassed himself. And this is Mr. Vole? This is Leonard Vole. Yada, yada, yada. Yes, I brought Vole here because I'm anxious for you to hear his story exactly as he told it to me. There is some urgency in the matter, it seems. Oh. Arrested for what? Mayhew. It's a case of Miss Emily French. You've probably seen the reports in the press. That is right. Did they caution you? Oh, well, it can't be helped now. You knew Miss French well. Tell Sir Wilfrid, just as you told me, how it was you came to make Miss French's acquaintance. And was she grateful? There was no question of your having saved her life. Cigarette? And you went. And you went to her house at Hampstead. What did you know about her when you first went to the house? She lived only with a housekeeper. Had you reason to believe she was well off? And you yourself? I shouldn't have put it quite like that, but in essence, yes. That is possibly what people might say. You say old ladies. Do you know what age Miss French was? 56. You consider that old, Mr. Vole, but I should doubt if Emily French considered herself old. Well, let us get on. You went to see Miss French fairly frequently. Did you take your wife with you? Why didn't you? Do you mean with your wife or Mrs. French? Go on. You mean she fell in love with you? You see, Mr. Vole, I have no doubt part of the police case against you, if there is a police case against you. As yet, we have no definite reason to suppose. Why did you, young, good-looking, married, devote so much of your time to an elderly woman with whom you could have hardly had very much in common? At least you're frank, Mr. Vole. Can you explain a little more clearly? Did you ask her for a loan? Miss French knew you were a married man. But she didn't suggest that you should bring her wife to go see her? Did you deliberately give her that impression? What sums of money did you obtain at any time from Miss French? Tell me something about the housekeeper. Why didn't she like you? Oh, so you helped Miss French with her business affairs? Now, Mr. Vole, I'm going to ask you a very serious question. Yada, did you convert any time to your own use the securities that you handled? Now, wait a minute. Blah, blah, blah. What I want is the truth. Take your time if you like before you reply. 14th. Did Miss French ask you to go and see her that night? It is Janet Mackenzie's night out, and you knew that fact. That's not quite so good. Please go on, Mr. Vole. You told me the housekeeper said she came home that evening earlier than usual. Can you prove that, Mr. Vole? You live in a flat? Did anybody see you returning to the flat? It might be an advantage if they had. And your wife will definitely say that you were at home at the time. You are very fond of your wife, and your wife is very fond of you. I see. You are happily married? Greta? No, thank you. Oh, would you like a cup, Vole? I think it'd be advisable for us to have a meeting with your wife. Okay. I wonder, Mr. Vole, if you're taking this business quite seriously enough. No, I'm afraid it's not a joke. How did you go home? By bus or underground? Did you see anyone you knew along the way? The evidence of a devoted wife, unsupported by any other evidence, may not be completely convincing, Mr. Vole. It has been known, Mr. Vole. Yes, I believe you, Mr. Vole, but it's not me you will have to convince. You are aware, are you not, that Miss French left a will leaving you all her money? I'm not joking. It's in tonight's evening paper. You knew nothing about it? You are quite sure of that, Mr. Vole? Supplies you with a very adequate motive. That is, if you knew about it, which you say you didn't. Miss French never talked to you about making a will. I think you must prepare yourself, Mr. Vole, for that eventuality. You may rest assured, my dear Vole, that I will do everything in my power to help you. Don't worry. Leave everything in my hands. Don't worry, my boy. Don't worry. I think we should be able to put an adequate defense. The court provides for these cases, you know. The police must have a good reason for not thinking it was a burglary. All right, John. I'll go and talk to them. The po-po. I'm afraid it may be, my boy. Now take it easy. Don't lose heart. Make no further statement. Leave it all to us. It seems probable that they have had a man watching you. Is your name Inspector Vole? I'm an idiot. The inspector says, is your name Leonard Vole? I'm Detective Inspector Hearn. I have here a warrant for your arrest on the charge of murdering Emily French on October 14th last. I must warn you that anything you say may be taken down as used in evidence. Blah, they talk for a bit. Roman enters, blah, blah. Act 1 comes to a close. Act 2. Okay, Act 2 starts in the courtroom. Clerk. Leonard Vole, you are charged on indictment for that you, on the 14th day of October, in the county of London, murdered Emily Jane French. How say you, Leonard Vole? Are you guilty or not guilty? Opening statements. She let herself in with the key, and upon going upstairs to her room, she passed the door of the sitting room. She will tell you that in the sitting room, she heard the voices of Miss French and that of the prisoner, Leonard Vole. Blah, you have to react to this, John. A lot of acting here, but that lines. Do your best, okay? Oh, Janet has a long talk. So long trial. Gosh darn it. Okay, Romaine comes in. In any event, Miss Heigler, are you willing to give evidence against the man you have been calling your husband? I am quite willing. At 10 minutes past 10. He said, I killed her. Please control yourself. When Leonard found he had blood on him, he cut himself to make it seem the blood was his. My lord, that is the case for the prosecution. Members of the jury, I call the prisoner, Leonard Vole. Now, Mr. Vole, we have heard of your friendship with Miss Emily French. I want you to tell us how often you visited her. Why was that? That was an aunt who brought you up. You heard Janet Mackenzie say that Miss French thought you were a single man, and there was some question of marrying you. Is there any truth in this? Miss French knew you were married, so there was no question of marriage between you. And in return, you did everything for her that you could. Will you tell the jury, in your own words, exactly what happened on the night of October the 14th? What time was that? Yes, but you're not... Sir Wilfred, I don't understand this piece of evidence at all. What is a cat brush? Oh. Yes. Did you see Janet Mackenzie? Did you know Janet Mackenzie was out? At what time did you leave? How long did that take you? So you reached home. And your wife, I will call her your wife, was at home then? Never mind that now. Just go on with your story. Did you wash your coat when you got in? Who did wash your coat? Cut on your wrist? When was the first you heard of the murder? And what did you feel? And what happened next? You went along with a statement and made a statement? You were not nervous? Reluctant to do so? Did you ever receive money from Miss French? Were you aware that she had made a will in your favor? Did you know what the terms of the new will would be? Had she ever suggested to you that she might leave you anything at all in her will? You have heard the test evidence that your wife, or the woman who you considered your wife, has given in court. I realize, Mr. Vole, that you are very upset, but I want to ask you to put aside all emotion to answer the question plainly and simply. Was what that witness said true or untrue? You arrived home at 9:25 that night and supper with your wife. Did you go out again? Are you right-handed or left-handed? I'm going to ask you one more question, Mr. Vole. Did you kill Emily French? Have you ever tried to get money out of anybody? How soon in your acquaintance with French did you learn that she was a wealthy woman? But having gained that knowledge, you decided to cultivate her acquaintance further? you would have continued to visit her, no matter how poor she'd been. You yourself are in poor circumstances. Kindly answer the question, yes or no. You must answer the question, yes or no. What salary do you earn? You were recently discharged from your position? The time of your arrest, how much money had you in the bank? How much? I put it to you, you were pretty desperate for money? You were worried about money. You met a wealthy woman and courted her acquaintance assiduously. We have heard that Miss French used to consult you on her income tax returns. Janet Mackenzie has told us that Miss French was a very good businesswoman, well able to deal with her own affairs. In filling up her income tax forms for you, you no doubt learned the exact amount of her income? No? Yes, very convenient. How was it, Mr. Vole, that you never took your wife to see Miss French? You say Miss French knew you were married. Yet she never asked you to bring your wife with you to the house? Why not? She preferred, shall we say, personable young men, and you didn't insist on bringing your wife. That was the impression you gave her? You mean she was infatuated with you? How? You hoped, didn't you, for some monetary advantage from your friendship with Miss French? Not in the way I mean. You seem to know what I mean better than I know myself. In what way did you hope for monetary advantage? I repeat, in what way did you hope for monetary advantage? Yes, we've heard this very often, haven't we? How much you liked her. I believe, Mr. Vole, that about a week before Miss French's death, you were making inquiries of a travel agency for particulars of foreign cruises. Not at all. Many people go on cruises when they can pay for it. But you couldn't pay for it. Could you, Mr. Vole? Not sure the strawberry blonde part's happening. Well, you admit you asked for particulars, not of cheap trips, but most expensive and luxurious cruises. How did you expect to pay for such a thing? I suggest that you knew that in a week's time you would have been handed a large sum of money from a trusting elderly lady. You really expected Cherry to believe that? So it was just a remarkable coincidence that Miss French should be killed, leaving you her heir only a few days later. Your story is that on the night of the 14th, you left Miss French's house at 4 minutes to 9, that you walked home and arrived there at 25 minutes past 9, and stayed there for the rest of the evening. You have heard the woman Romaine Heigler rebut that story in court. You have heard her say that you came in not at 25 minutes past 9, but at 10 minutes past 10. That your clothes were bloodstained, that you definitely admitted to her that you killed Miss French. Can you suggest for any reason why this young woman, who has been passing as your wife, should deliberately give evidence she has given if it were not true? You think she must have gone mad? She seemed extremely sane and self-possessed, but insanity is the only reason you can suggest. Very effective, I'm sure. But in this court we deal with facts. And the fact is, Mr. Vole, only your word for it that you left Emily French's house at the time you say you did, and that you arrived home at 5 and 20 minutes past 9, and that you did not go out again. One would certainly think so, but the only person who did see you come home that night says it was 10 minutes past 10. That person says you had blood in your clothes. A very easy thing to do, in case any questions should arise. You cut your wrist deliberately. You came home at 10 past 10. You killed Emily French. End of Act 2, my friends. Throw one. Going crazy. Best of luck to me. Regular is called Lies. All lies. You would seem to have been on intimate terms with this man. Damn you, damn you, damn you. Damn you. I don't know, German accent, I think. Anyways, can't get that. Nothing. 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 Congratulations, my boy. This is the man you've got to thank. Nasty mess, do you hear that, John? Your troubles are over now, my boy. It was a near thing, you know. If you hadn't been able to break that woman down. Look here, Vole. You're not the first young man I've known who's been so crazy over a woman they've been blinded to what she's really like. That woman did her level best to put a rope around your neck. And don't you forget it. Just 2 or 3 minutes, not more, sir. We'll slip you out to a car with a side entrance. Mayn't I even congratulate Leonard on being free? No thanks to you. And rich? Yes, I think, Mr. Vole, that you will certainly inherit a great deal of money. Tell me, do those words the judge said mean that I shall go to prison? You will be certainly charged with perjury and tried for it. You will probably go to prison. Is this true? Is she your girl, Leonard? After all I've done for you, what can she do that can compare with that? No, that will not happen. I shall not be tried as accessory after the fact. I shall not be tried for perjury. I shall be tried for murder. The murder of the only man I ever loved. Guilty, my lord. Baller. Killer. Yeah, I hope you figure out who the characters are by your voices, but otherwise, that's brutal. Okay.